Hey guys, and welcome back to One Candle Society for another One Candle Paranormal Case File. Here with your host, Vic Whateley.
And Marcus D. And guys, we're going to give a quick shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thank you for being a Patreon supporter. And if you guys would love to hear your name on our videos, think about checking on our Patreon and becoming a patron today.
And let's go ahead and dive in, because today we're talking about the Bloop. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, were listening for volcanic activity in the southern Pacific Ocean. They picked up an ultra-low frequency on two separate hydrophones, 3,219 miles away from each other, and recorded multiple instances of it. On examination of the sound, Dr. Fox, a member of the Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, concluded that the sound was likely biological. This became known as the Bloop. Well, before we get started, we should actually just listen to the sound. Here's it sped up, which is the way most of you hear it when you see it on YouTube or online.
And this is the Bloop at its original speed, which completely changes the way that it sounds.
My first thoughts on that sound is I don't know why more people don't use the longer one. It's very chilling compared to the first one, which, well, just kind of sounds like a sound.
It sounds way more unsettling than the first. The first one kind of it's like a sound effect. I mean, it makes it almost comical when you listen to it. Versus the second one, the real sound that the Bloop made, way, way better.
It's like bloop compared to yeah. Okay, but one of the things we need to talk about is exactly how loud is this? Yeah, it was picked up by two separate microphones 3,219 miles away, but what does that really translate into? Well, it's kind of hard to say because we don't have all the statistics on the sort of hydrophones that were used there. But there are some things I can say about it because I've had to learn way more about how sound travels through water than I ever wanted to know. But sound travels roughly 4 times farther in water than it does through air. That's because the molecules are more dense. But this is all affected by temperature, pressure, and salinity, which we don't know the exacts on of when it was taken. So the best we can do is pretty much speculate. But I have found one reference to the Bloop being around 712.7 decibels. Although this was very hard to source, and much since it was from an older website and an older article, much of it's been taken down. But we're going to work with that for the time being. Although I think it's likely that that estimate may be over-exaggerated because that would be an incredibly loud sound, likely the loudest sound ever recorded. Just to put it in perspective, 120 decibels is enough to shock the human body into pain. 150 decibels is enough to shatter your eardrums, and around 200 decibels should be enough to kill you.
Damn, that's loud.
Yeah, it's really loud, especially considering that a nuclear bomb's decibel is estimated to be around 240, and this is much, much louder.
Yeah, I remember when we were researching this video, and I threw that out. I'm like, how loud's a nuclear explosion compared to this? And before you could even get to the decibels, it's just like, well, let's put this in perspective. You'd be dead before you heard it. So this brings us to when we have to think about what could the Bloop be. The first theory that most people throw out for what the Bloop could be is that it's some kind of animal. That's the most popular theory out there, that the Bloop is some sort of large marine animal. Because most of the scientists, when they first heard it, thought that this kind of mimicked other marine life.
Well, let's talk about the sort of sounds that animals can make. For example, whales can hit around 230 decibels and are likely the loudest known animals, which is really, really, really loud right there. Many people speculate that that means that the bloop, if an animal, would have to be much, much larger than a whale. But not necessarily true. There are many small animals that rank around the loudest animals in the world. For example, the greengrocer cicada can hit around 120 decibels, and the pistol shrimp, thanks to a specialized claw, can hit around 200 decibels. Both exceptionally loud and very, very small animals.
So when they're saying that if this was some kind of whale or some sort of marine life, based on what we know now about these animals, it would have to be much larger. But it may not have to be that large if it's a different kind of animal that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, many of the vertebrates that create the incredibly loud sounds are large animals. But when it comes to invertebrates, it seems that they can produce very loud sounds even without being exceptionally large.
Vic, you know way more about biology than I do. Like, do you think the bloop could be an animal?
I'm not going to put anything in life as impossible, but I'd say it's fairly unlikely. I can't think of any good reason an animal would need to make a sound quite that loud. Mainly it's going to be for mating or to alert something or to communicate something, things along those lines. But I can't think of a reason why something would ever need to be this loud, even if it's communicating to a mate extremely far away.
I think I'd have a hard time believing that it was an animal, because if it was doing something that loud for mating, we didn't hear anything back. We didn't hear another sound like from somewhere else, like it was responding to it.
No, and even though it could kill prey with a sound blast that strong, the amount of energy it would need to produce to do it would just not be effective for the calories it's going to get from eating. As much as I love to talk about sea serpents and great leviathans of the deep, and I'm not saying they're not out there, I just don't think this is a case of one. But of course, with anything in this sort of field, there's more than one theory out there. And Marcus, what do you think about the nuclear bomb possibility?
So the theory that Bloop was some sort of nuclear explosion underwater has a lot of different things that you have to dissect. I go back and forth on this theory when I think about it. The first thing to bring up, there's a giant international treaty that prevents countries from testing underwater nuclear devices outside of their territory. And from where the Bloop was, that would have to mean that this was some South American country that did this. The problem is that when most countries detonate nuclear devices, countries developing nuclear devices, they showboat these things. They put on grand spectacles that they're doing these things. Countries that already have nuclear weapons, they do these huge experiments with them. You know, where there's a lot of different levels to the experiments. They're looking at a lot of different things. And you don't really see that with the Bloop. There's not a whole lot that makes it look like that's what was going on out there. So that makes me think that if this was a nuclear explosion, that it had to have been detonated for just a purpose. They had to have been trying to nuke something down there. Which then makes a lot of people come up with the objection, well, if they tried to nuke something down there, there would be evidence of it. Not necessarily. The U.S. government's already kind of proved this. In 1955, Operation Wigwam, the U.S. detonated a nuclear device 2,000 feet below, trying to see what it would be like to nuke subs, to see if they could take out submarines. They found they could take out submarines for miles. They also found out that most of the radiation extremely diminished after about a day. And they found that planes and boats could just travel freely without any real problems. So yeah, they could have detonated something there for a purpose, and the next day, most people wouldn't know.
Okay, so if it didn't make sense to be a test, why would they be detonating a nuclear bomb?
See, that's the thing that I don't know. I have a theory, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when we do our conclusions.
But of course, with all of these sort of things, we have to go over the skeptical response, which is that it's ice cracking or ice quakes.
Yeah, I've heard that theory too. I want to begin this stating that Bloop is not the only bizarre, unknown sound that we've recorded. There's several others. There's like a collection of 6 or 7 very famous unknown sounds. Okay? And NOAA has come out and pretty much said that they think that all of these sounds in some way, shape, or form are ice cracking or glaciers going against the seafloor, and that's their explanation to all of these. And the response from NOAA has been is that whenever the array they set up in the Pacific Ocean to detect these things, that we didn't know a whole lot about ice cracking or glacial movements and things like that and the sounds that they make. And all of these bizarre sounds that we heard at first, that's really what these were. And then they were trying to compare sound profiles later coming out to all of these. And a problem that I have here is that we have to just take the word from the government about what these sounds really are. The difference between, say, UFOs and these sounds is with UFOs, you can go out with a telescope or you can see them with, your own eyes. And the government's constantly having to respond to what they are. You don't have that with these unknown sounds that have been coming from the ocean. It's not like we have our own hydrophonic equipment that we can go down and listen to these things and make our own determinations. We have to rely completely on the information that the government has given us. And I find it even more bizarre was that after 1999, there's no more of these recordings out there. They just stop. And all of a sudden, just these ice quakes and ice cavings just stop and we can't hear them anymore. It seems like the government is closed in this information and it's not out there anymore. So guys, I know the bloop has been a lot to digest. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So now me and Vic are going to talk about what our theories are and what we think the bloop actually is. But we're not going to go with the ice cracking theory. We're not going to go with the animal theory. Everybody goes there. We're going to give you guys something different. Vic, what do you think?
Okay, I think I have a good one for you guys. Something that a lot of people don't talk about is the location of the bloop is very close to where H.P. Lovecraft put the location of the city of R'lyeh, the great city where Cthulhu sleeps, the city that's supposed to one day rise again and change all reality. Well, you have to look at where Lovecraft got his inspiration. Lovecraft took the inspiration for his writing from his dreams. And a lot of people have talked about prekinetic dreams and some people being able to foretell events and themes in reality through dreams. There are people out there who theorize that that's what H.P. Lovecraft was doing through his writing, giving these bizarre predictions of realities beyond our own. And this may have been the doors of R'lyeh opening up.
Okay, I didn't know that was coming.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big H.P. Lovecraft fan, and I've been wanting to talk about something along those lines on this channel, and I think we even had a request for us to talk something about that. But okay, Marcus, enough of my theory. What you got for us?
All right, I'm going to go down my own rabbit hole. And you can't come, Vic. So when it comes to my theory, I was looking at the date of Bloop, and I was looking at other dates surrounding other unknown sounds that we've heard underwater, because Bloop is not the only one that we've ever heard. And I looked at some other dates and kind of put some things together, and this is what I think happened. So there was another famous unknown sound called Upsweep that happened in 1991. This was before the array of hydrophones in the Pacific Ocean that picked up all of these other famous underwater sounds that we know of. So I'm going to play Upsweep for you so you can hear that sound. So what if Upsweep was us picking up something underwater that truly disturbed the government? So now there's something underwater that we're deeply disturbed by that we have to respond to. The next thing that happens is in 1996, we developed these better underwater microphones for us to be able to listen and be able to pinpoint stuff underwater. So what if Bloop was a government responding to whatever this threat was? What if these other sounds, train, whistle, all of these other famous underwater sounds are just the sounds that are being picked up by the government or a government responding to these threats underwater? And maybe that's the reason why there's no more of these sounds after 1999 anymore, because the threat's gone.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine our two theories. So the government picks up the sounds of Ralia rising from the sea to bring madness and doom to mankind. And they use a nuclear device to collapse an ice shelf and cause an ice quake. So they're not entirely lying. To collapse onto Ralia and sink it back to the bottom of the sea. But we'll leave that for you guys to discuss in the comments below.
Woo, man, that was a ride, I'm sure, through this video.
Yeah, this took a while for us to get off the ground. We actually had to push back the recording date multiple times, but every time it worked out because we discovered something new about the bloop that would have been great to add into the show.
Yeah, I know. We always want to bring you guys different theories that other people don't want to bring up. We want to bring something new and fresh to the conversation.
And if you guys enjoyed it, give us a like, a share, a subscribe. Make sure you're hitting that bell icon so you get notified when we put up new material. And of course, check out our stuff on Patreon. We have a lot of neat things over there.
Yeah, there's so many things that you guys can get by becoming a patron. You can get autographs from me and Vic and even have input onto what videos we do for the channel. But as always, guys, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.